YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with another 7-round NFL mock draft. This one is for the Green Bay Packers, who have a bunch of picks in the upcoming draft. What do they got here? They got 10 picks. Good amount there. 2 first-round picks to go along with that. They had a pretty darn good free agency, so they had a bunch of needs, and it was okay because they had a good amount of picks, but then they filled some of those needs, and they're able to move around here, you know. 2 picks in the 4th round, those are something to watch out for. Those could be used to move up at any point, but they may not need to move up in the 1st round because they have 2 picks. So maybe they can move up here a little bit to get the guy they really want. Packers are in a pretty darn good situation right at this point, so looks good. We're going to get through all the teams in draft order. We'll eventually get there. We have a regular mock draft on the channel, more updated ones coming. As soon as we get closer to draft, we're going to have constant NFL draft content, and we had free agency content on the channel already. All kinds of stuff going on here. Subscriber goals at 20K. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, all kinds of stuff here. So please help us get there by clicking that button. Click the like button on the video. I mean, much appreciated as well. But let's get on to the Packers. Million different scenarios you can do with the Packers. And I really liked what the haul I just gave them in this. I like the fits a lot. And, you know, it's hard to peg their first pick. They can go a bunch of different scenarios. And I went with TJ Hawkinson. I like Hawkinson a lot, you know, tight end. They have a couple tight ends on their roster, but Hawkinson to me does it all. He does it all at a high level. And Jimmy Graham, you know, he can be good. He definitely can be good this year, and maybe they move on from him at some point, but you know, he doesn't really want to block anymore. It doesn't seem like he wants to block anymore. Hawkinson can block, and he can catch the ball. He can run after the catch. You know, he's a Packers-type tight end to me, and it'll help Rodgers. It'll help that offense so much, and I think the blocking really appeals to them. I think it would. So, and then people say they want Fant. They could be the option, too, more of athletic tight end, more of a receiver option. I think it's a little too early with their first pick, with the 12th pick. So I think Hawkinson, but a bunch of different scenarios. They can go with the defensive line, at defensive end, Rashawn Gary, go at Oliver if they feel comfortable putting him at the end. They could use a middle linebacker. Devin Bush could be an option. There's a million different options for the Packers. This is where it starts to get tricky. This is a scenario I went with their second first-round pick. I went with Dalton Risner from Kansas State. They definitely need another lineman, possible starting right guard right now, or really either guard or the right tackle is what I'm really looking at. And the thing about Dalton Risner is he can play either. You know, he has experience at the right tackle. He can slide him into guard. Right tackle, they got Brian Bulaga, who's excellent, but just seems to always get hurt. And the Packers are very good making sure they have the right offensive lineman. They have the right depth for the future. But I think Risner can play right away. So to me, he's a nasty blocker. I see him on the Packers. I can see him on multiple teams, but to me, it just seems like a Packers guy. That's just what it seems like to me. So those are 2 first-round picks. Pretty good haul already. They got many more to come. I went with Deebo Samuel in the 2nd round. I don't really see this one that much. They definitely need another wide receiver. They have multiple receivers. You know, people always say, well, they just drafted St. Brown and they drafted Valdes-Scantling last year, and that's true. They did. They were in the later rounds. Those guys are pretty good, but they're kind of just rotation guys. You know, and they re-signed Geronimo Allison, but they could get better at this position. You can't be afraid to get better at this position. And they upgraded so many needs in free agency where they're going to have to take chances on guys like this, and it's a smart decision. So Deebo Samuel can do it all, really. He can play outside, can play in the slot. He really can do it all for him. He's great after the catch. He would be excellent with Devontae Adams there with Rodgers throwing to him. It makes a lot of sense to me. Moving on to the next pick, I had them taking Kalen Saunders, who I would love in this defense. You know, they have a pretty good D-line. They could use a D-end right now. And Saunders is kind of known more. He was more of a D-tackle in a 4-3. They had him take some reps at the end spots, and he did well there. And he's a pass rusher first. You know, he's a big guy, but he's a pass rusher first. He has excellent moves. I'm very high on him. You know, you can move him anywhere on their line. I would like him in their end spot. Opposite of Daniels, Kenny Clark in the middle. That's just scary. Saunders is a freak, and he's got a lot of potential. You know, I think a team could take a chance on him in the 2nd round even. Moving on to the next pick. Went Mike Edwards, Kentucky safety. You know, they still could use another safety next to Amos. They do have Josh Jones, who I was high on a couple years ago, but, you know, maybe he's more of a box guy. You know, he's a guy that wants to run downfield and hit you. So Mike Edwards could be a guy that they plug in next to Amos. He also is very good on pressing in the slot and everything too. So I think Mike Edwards can, if you need him to play in the slot, play in the box, you need him to play corner, I think he can do all those things. That the Packers are good at corner. They drafted extremely well last year, and they have Kevin King from a couple years ago too. So they're set on corner for the future. Looks very good there. Mike Edwards makes a lot of sense in this defense next to Amos. Next pick, I went with another receiver. I did it. I think we're gonna make this offense that good here. That's what we're going to do. Like I said, they filled a lot of needs. They can afford to go do this. And there's a true slot receiver with crazy footwork, great routes, excellent speed and quickness. And Greg Dortch from Wake Forest is being slept down by teams, or by the media, I should say, not by teams. I think he goes round 4. He's a sneaky guy for this draft class. People are looking for the next Tyreek Hill, and Greg Dortch is not Tyreek Hill, but he might be the closest thing to him in this receiver class. So they don't really have a guy like this. I think they definitely can use one, maybe a younger Randall Cobb type guy, but quicker feet even, a little more shifty than Randall Cobb. So this offense would be scary, very scary with Deebo Samuel and Greg Dortch in it. I wouldn't want to play them. And my team has to play them twice a year. So moving on. TJ Edwards, this is a Packers linebacker. They could use another middle linebacker. They could go with one earlier, like I mentioned, maybe Devin Bush. They'll like him. But if they start getting to that second round, they didn't take one. They'll probably wait to round here. TJ Edwards from Wisconsin, he's all over the place, high motor guy. And last year he was projected to come out and he would have been a second round pick. Drops a little bit. You wish he'd be a little more athletic. He's doesn't have the freakish size, but he can play. Bottom line is he can play. I think he's being slept on. I think he goes around this range, and that would be a Packers guy in my opinion. And they do have Oren Burks, who I like from last year too. I think they're pretty high on him, so he can step up next to Blake Martinez. So I don't think there's a panic to take a linebacker super early, and you can easily get one like this down here. Justin Hollins in the 6th round. He can be depth at your edge rush position. You're most likely going to lose Clay Matthews, but you brought in 2 pass rushers in free agency. That was the main part where the Packers did well. They also have Fackrell, who was very good last year. So, not a glaring need at this point. It was going into this offseason, but they did a very good job in free agency. And Justin Hollins is a perfect player for them to pick in that situation. A guy that has a bunch of upside. He's not really ready to play yet, but he has a bunch of upside. Every time we see him, he looks good now. He was in East-West Shrine game and the Combine, just looking good. So I think he just needs the right coaches, and he's going to be something else. Freakish guy coming off the edge, but, maybe not ready to produce right away, and that's okay for what the Packers did in free agency. So a pick like this makes a lot of sense down here. Michael Jordan's next, not the basketball player. I typed in, I got to get these pictures for these graphics, and I typed in Michael Jordan thinking I was actually going to get a picture of this guy come up, and that's where I went wrong. But at this point, depth of the offensive line position, Dalton Reisner, I think a future tackle for the Packers, even though they can use him at guard early on. Jordan would just be a depth guard for them down here in the 6th round. So, and at one point he was supposed to go a lot higher, but he's starting to fall down because the other offensive line talent, and maybe not the best of the Ohio State offensive line, but he was very solid. The whole unit was very solid, so he could drop a little bit. I also think there will be a gap that will push offensive linemen back. There's going to be such a run on them in the first 3 rounds where the teams that need offensive linemen will be done. So I think a lot will be pushed back. So Jordan could be had in the 6th round. Moving on to their last pick, 7th round. Alexander Madison makes a lot of sense to me to the Packers team here, the Boise State running back. He's starting to grow on me a little more. He's pretty shifty, can break some tackles. They don't necessarily, they have a bunch of picks, so they got to do something with them. They don't really need the running back, but if Aaron Jones goes down again, they have Jamal Williams, who I like as a backup, but they need more of a guy that's an Aaron Jones style, and I think that's Alexander Madison from Boise State here. So, and again, he would replace Jones, but he wouldn't be the starter. Obviously, Jamal Williams would be the starter, so I'm not saying that, but it's just so we're clear. But you can get a solid running back down here. Maybe you wait till undrafted free agency, but they have a bunch of picks, so you might as well use them here unless, like I said, they could be packaged together to move up a little bit in that. And really, the 1st, 2nd round, 3rd round, you can have some starting talent early on, as you can see. So there's the haul for the Packers. I think a lot of these were fits, in my opinion. I try to find fits for all these, but these ones really felt good for the Packers here. So let me know your guys' thoughts going through every single team. Check out our Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, links in the description for all those. Always talking on our Twitter there, so check us out there. We much appreciate it. But, yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks, everyone, for watching. More to come. Goodbye.